Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. I am so incredibly excited about this one today. We're going to be decoding what's known as the Vista Parlor incident. It's this incredibly well-documented case study of a seance that went, frankly, terrifyingly off the rails. If you've ever wondered about the actual physical mechanics of a supernatural event, like how it literally unfolds in real time in front of people, you are absolutely in the right place. We're diving straight into the source material to break this whole thing down, step by step.
And we're going to start right here with these exact words. It's coming for us. That was squealed by a guy named Gideon Jarbo, someone pushed to the absolute brink of terror. I mean, just imagine it. You're sitting in this freezing cold room, completely defenseless, and some inexplicable force is moving straight toward you. To figure out how Gideon and 12 other people ended up in this absolute nightmare, we need to zoom out and look at the exact sequence of events that invited this thing into the room.
Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1, the baseline, setting the seance scene. So, our setting is the Vista Parlor. We've got a group of 13 people gathered to contact a recently deceased medium, Madame Tatiana Lupensky. They've just finished up what they call the beckoning invocation. But look at how the group dynamics instantly shift the second the room's temperature takes a massive, sudden nosedive. On one side, you have Charles Smith. He is super calm, totally grounded. He immediately jumps in to reassure the panicked group, telling them to stay in their seats because, hey, this is exactly what they wanted to happen. Contrast that with Adrian Russell. He's not trying to soothe anybody. He is loud, commanding, and purely focused on facilitating the spirits, basically yelling out for Madame Lupensky to join them and use the board as her tablet.
Right after that crazy temperature drop, things start escalating. Fast. The planchette sitting on their 1890 antique Ouija board suddenly starts shaking rapidly all on its own, making this hollow, clicking sound. And then, in total, dead silence, it slides across the board and stops dead on the word no. Literally a chilling rejection from the beyond, right? Gideon Jarbo, his voice totally shaking, asks what it means. But before they can even process this blatant rejection from the spirit world, the whole environment completely shifts. Which brings us to the next phase. Section 2, the anomaly, a manifestation in the dark.
This is where the physical reality of the parlor just completely breaks down. It's basically a textbook example of an environmental manifestation. First, you get a localized power failure. The electric lights flicker and completely die out, leaving them with just candlelight. But Charles points out he can actually see light through the elevator doors. The power is still on in the rest of the house. Something deliberately cut the power just in their room. Second, a growing luminescence. A participant named Carla points out this weird glow getting brighter over near the windows that face the Olympic Mountains. And third, the vaporous transformation. Literally right before their eyes, this glowing cloud grows and starts taking on a human-sized, feminine shape.
Now, this glow didn't just pop up randomly. It manifested right next to a very specific artifact, a Diplony amphora. This is an actual ancient Greek funerary vase sitting in a display case by the window. This historical piece essentially acted as a physical, geographical anchor for the apparition. It's like it pulled ancient mythology right out of the past and dropped it straight into this modern parlor. And what actually manifested next to that vase was both breathtaking and completely terrifying. The group watched as this cloud solidified into the frail, ghost-like apparition of a woman. She's dressed in full classical Greek clothing, looking deeply tragic and melancholy. She hovers in the air for a second, then slowly pivots and touches down softly on her feet. Oh, an absolutely crucial detail here. She is clutching this mysterious book. As you can imagine, the entire room was literally speechless.
All right, moving on to Section 3, the incident, the unification sequence. That silent awe? Yeah, it didn't last long at all. The whole encounter violently shifts from this passive, spooky haunting into an actual physical assault on the group. The ghostly figure frees one of her arms, raises it up toward the ceiling, and from her fingertip, something starts to grow. This is what's known as the vapor of Zoethea. It was this luminescent, vaporous tendril that grew to almost 3 feet long. It actually detaches from her finger, floats right into the dead center of the seance table, and just hovers there, casting this harsh white light over everyone's faces. It's essentially the mother tendril. And then, it strikes.
The speed of this is what's truly terrifying. Literally at 0 seconds, moving in the blink of an eye, a secondary tendril shoots out from the mother tendril and blasts straight up the nose of a guy named Freddy. Bam! 2 seconds later, another tendril shoots right into Avery's open mouth. At the 5-second mark, Gideon Jarbo, who had just cried out in terror, gets struck right through the nose too.
This rapid-fire invasion just whips around the table until, exactly 30 seconds later, Adrian Russell becomes the final victim.
So what exactly happens to a human body when it gets invaded by a glowing supernatural appendage? Well, the source material lays out a very specific, universal pathology for this. Step 1. The victim's eyes snap shut instantly. Step 2. The entire body jerks violently for just a brief second or two. Step 3. They collapse into a totally motionless supernatural stupor. Every single one of the 13 people at that table experienced this exact sequence, leaving the entire room completely frozen in their chairs.
Section 4. The climax. A unified spirit. With everyone totally incapacitated, this eerie, heavy silence blanketed the room for several minutes. The mother tendril throbbed twice, then just sucked right back into the entity's fingertip. The ghost went back to just quietly holding her book. But what happens next is this deeply haunting display of synchronization. First, as if on some unspoken, invisible cue, the entire group opens their eyes at the exact same time. But they aren't normal. They're glowing with this intense, solid blue light. Second, beams of that blue light actually shoot out from all 13 pairs of eyes, meeting perfectly in the dead center of the table where the mother tendril used to be. Adrian Russell, who is somehow somewhat conscious in this state, barely manages to croak out 2 words: the unification. Third, the beams vanish as quickly as they appeared, and over the next few minutes, the blue glow slowly fades from their eyes. Finally, they start to blink, move around, and come back to full reality.
Which brings us to Section 5, the debrief, decoding the lore.
So as the group is gasping back to consciousness, totally disoriented, they're obviously asking, what on earth just happened? Who was that? Well, a participant named Lucy Eddy is the one who makes the brilliant, albeit terrifying, connection. That entity? That was Zoethea. And as Lucy explains, Zoethea is an obscure Greek goddess of seances. We're not talking mainstream mythology here. She is documented only in incredibly rare ancient scrolls, even making an appearance in a thesis on necromancy written by Socrates himself. And as Adrian points out, for a mythological goddess of this magnitude to physically show up at a modern seance is completely unprecedented.
So why her? Why then? Well, Adrian puts together this brilliant hypothesis outlining the perfect storm that actually summoned a goddess. First off, they were trying to contact Madame Lipensky, who was this ridiculously powerful 95-year-old medium who just died. Second, Lipensky's spiritual journey to the afterlife had been denied, which created this massive rippling disruption in the spiritual order. And third, the group dynamics. You put the combined psychic energy of 13 people sitting around one table, and it basically acts as a massive supernatural magnet.
But there's one more absolutely crucial piece to this puzzle. It's a tome called McConnell's Odd Science Curiosities. According to Adrian, this immensely powerful oracle book is the exact thing responsible for denying Madame Lipensky's journey in the first place. So you combine a blocked, super-powerful medium with the interference of this dark oracle book, and it literally shakes the foundation of the spirit realm. That massive disruption is what triggered the extreme intervention of Zoethea herself.
Finally, Section 6, the aftermath. The seance resumes.
Now, you'd think an event of this magnitude would absolutely end the evening, right? Time to go home. But suddenly, the electric lights snap back on. The ghost by the window just vanishes. A weird, tentative calm washes over the room as everyone realizes they aren't physically hurt. But the reactions to surviving this are wildly split. On one hand, you have the group in absolute shock. Guys like Freddie are frantic, screaming, "What in the hell happened?" They are desperate for answers, totally traumatized. But then, on the other hand, you have Charles Smith. While everyone else is still shaking off a literal supernatural possession, Charles is hyper-focused. He urgently tells everyone to stop talking about it. He calmly demands, "There is no danger, resume your work," basically warning them that if they don't get back to the seance immediately, they'll lose their connection to the spirit world.
Crazy enough, Adrian actually agrees, completely brushing past the profound revelation of Zoethea to refocus the group's energy. And incredibly, as they all settle back into their chairs, the planchette on that antique Ouija board starts to vibrate and clatter all over again, which leaves us with this one deeply chilling question. After tearing a hole in the spiritual order and surviving a visitation from a goddess of necromancy, what unseen force is waiting to speak to them next? Thank you so much for joining me to decode this incredible case study. Keep analyzing, keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.